you could go one end in your wheelchair and I'd go at the other end with my walking stick.
yeah, exactly right.
Yeah, it is. You're looking at the building of the side, and having someone like you coming in was absolutely fantastic. Can you remember anything about that, young Joe?
Honestly, I can't. I mean, I was 9 when Ryan first came. I'm really sorry, everyone. I was 9. I can remember him being really fast, and I can also remember when you went home when you were injured, they were sat on chairs outside the West End room just before he went. I don't know why I can remember this, and it might be a false memory, but it was very sombre. I can remember it being very sad when he was leaving. And that was, after 10 games, that was the effect that you'd had on the club. Not that everyone was sad, but the fact that you had to go.
Probably the bar tab, that would have been.
And then obviously later on, 2006, 2007, I have a slightly better memory of that. But when he initially came, I didn't know anything. I was still dressing up as James Bond at that point.
Ordered! Send Lowerhouse to save the house! Come on, the house!
Probably takes us back a little bit to Ryan in his South Australia days, battling for these contracts. And I remember a story that Renner's told, bless him, was that when he picked Ryan up from the airport, and on his way back, sort of Ryan says, do you mind me asking how you found out about me? And Renner says, yeah, I did my research and I found this and I found that. And Ryan says, fuck me. He says, you know more about me than the South Australian. So
I was going to say, I actually remember that. I don't exactly. I remember asking him that, and exactly right. How did you find all that?
I mean, Renner's had an amazing knack of finding... I mean, it wasn't. I mean, that wasn't by fluke. The amount of work that he put in to find these professionals, and I think it speaks volumes. The amount of them that have ended up playing international cricket is.
Joey, that's a really good point, and that was the point I was going to get to. Is that you look at the history of the club, our club, Lowerhouse. The people who've gone through there and gone and progressed onto international cricket is phenomenal. And you talk about even Moddy and Fleggs, for instance, talk about Australia, even Van Yarsveld played. I mean, a lot of players went through the Lancashire League, but also our club to do that, and that's a phenomenal thing. The history of going through of that league, but also the way that Renner's. There's no coincidence there that Renner's got the right people in, because it wasn't just we look at stats and see how he's going. Because again, like Macca said the other night, it's not just the player, it's the people you bring in, and those people, those players and people, the ones you speak of there, Fleggs, Moddy, Yarra. I actually never met Yarra, but I know he's a good man. Been through the club. It's not just about the player; it's about the person. And that's what makes the club as well. And the player goes a long way if they're a good person as well. So there's no coincidence in that.
It's so true. With Gary captained the side and played with a lot of pros. I did. Tony's been around a long time and he's always at the club. It counts for so much. It really does when you've got someone that is approachable and it can get the best out of you, out of the individuals. We've gone through that season a little bit, Ryan, and there's a couple of games that have jumped out. Joe Beneduce, has mentioned some great things about you, about being, the top pro that he's played with and that he's met, etc. And he flagged up, I think, him and Gary. Gary was watching this game. When we played at Burnley. I don't know if you can remember anything about it, Ryan. We only got 113 and you ran their pro out. Can you remember that?
I do remember that. Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Absolute phenomenon.
I do. Matt was trying to stop me from bowling because I think I'd bowled 20-odd overs. And he said, or 18, 19 overs. And he said, no, we need to stop. I said, no, what do you mean you need to stop me with? Mate, we've got 130 on the board. They're about 6 down. I said, oh, well, I'm not going to say what I said to him, but I said, F off. Well, we're going to win this game. So, and then I did. I remember that was Joubert, I think it was. Was it Joubert? Yeah. Matt nearly punched him as he went off. He was fighting with him as he walked off. And,
that's right.
And he was a bit mouthy. Joubert was a bit mouthy, and I told him where to go. But Yeah, the Burnley derbies were the best. They were good. I mean, every game we played was obviously a challenge, but playing Burnley was obviously amazing. And you talk about again. I heard Macca talk about games that he played in the year that you guys won it. That sort of, I guess, team or morale changing games, and that against Burnley, as you said, 113 was huge. That gave faith to us. When we were playing, that we could, no matter what teams made and what we did, and if we mucked up on the day, that if you had faith, you could still win games, and that was a huge game. Happened obviously against Burnley, but it was also gave the confidence that you could win from anywhere if you did the right thing and had a crack.
Yeah, and I do. I mean, just from a personal point, I know Gary was there watching it, and I'll bring Gary in a minute. But I do remember, I look at the scorecard now, but they had an off-spinner bowling who bowled 11 overs, 18 for 3. But I remember us just keep, let's just get above the 100. Let's get over 80. Let's get over 100. The track wasn't the best. Let's get, and we did. We got to the 113, not thinking, that it was enough, but we'll give it everything that we've got. And I remember your spell, the figures were 24 overs, 13 for 5, and then running out Joubert like you did. What's your memories of that, Gary, as a spectator?
They get thinner as the day went on, to be honest. I mean, that had all the ingredients. That was an away derby, low-scoring game, bit feisty. Obviously, I was trying to defend a low score, and I think when you were bowled, you just bowling down the hill then, Ryan, and just putting it in, and it did see. I mean, everybody was wishing you to bowl another 10 clicks an hour quicker sort of thing, and it looked like you were doing all the time, and people were hopping around. And then that run out of Joubert, I mean, that was amazing. I mean, when we were talking about it, or we discussed it the other day, it was like tingles on the back of my neck again, just reliving that moment. It was something else. And I think we gave, I think you were there, Tony. We were on the balcony, me, you, and Nicky maybe, and you were giving Andy McLeod the cuckoo treatment for about 2 hours. Yeah, and it's a good one. That is, you head like a cuckoo clock. It can go off at any minute. And it just had all the banter. The crowd were in on it, and for me, you're right. We were on a podcast the other week, and we talked about times where we seemed to, the longer it went into those games and some of those low scoring ones, and we always felt we backed ourselves to win those. We were just like a mentality or a will to get it over the line, and your efforts that day. So I think just give that the rest of the team, the younger players who maybe haven't played so much first team cricket, just that belief that it's never over.
Yeah, I guess sorry, Jez, that was the thing about it. I think that was what I saw as well, what I learned from that short period coming back. And again, I'm probably repeating a bit what Mac alluded to the other night, is that was the role as a professional. It wasn't, yes, you had the pressure on you earn the money, you've got to perform, that's fine. But you've also got to try and instill something in the change room as well. And our change room was great. I mean, it was all about, yes, we had to, make sure we're doing our roles, whatever, but geez, it was a funny change room. Trying to get past Johnny Russell and Charlie and Joe. You're trying to be serious at times, and then good old Johnny Russell. I'll tell you a quick story. Renner's told me, I rocked up in 2003, so we got this guy, he bowls fast in one end, and obviously Jez, you were still playing then as well, but the other end, we got Jez, who's a great, obviously, stalwart of the club and of the game, and then we got the other guy at the other end bowling, good pace, and he's taken a lot of wickets, and I rocked up and went to training, and I said to Rennes, who's the guy that bowls good paces? That was Johnny bowling the other. It's Johnny. I said, okay, yeah, sorry about that. But he doesn't bowl fast. He doesn't bowl fast. and I mean that tongue in cheek. But Johnny was, having guys like that around. I mean, in the change room, you'd sit down, you have a loss, and the first, I've been in change rooms where it lasts all night. The last 15, 20 minutes, yes, you have your chat about, we need to do better. And everyone in that change room knew that we knew what we had to do. But then, the Charlies, the Johnnies, and Dooches and that would know how to, especially the couple of young guys around that, dwell on the loss and chat honestly, but then, make sure you enjoy yourself. And that was such a good thing about that change room. Well, the change room, when I was in it.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, they're all mates, weren't they?
When I've looked at that Burnley game, but for any young cricketer in that side or any young cricketer watching, that's only 6 games in. It must have been amazing to see someone who has only just come to the club, no real allegiance yet to it, but willing to bowl 24 overs straight through and just keep going regardless of, the fact that the captain wanted to take him off. He's got a career back home to protect as well. He was a little bit injured. It must have been amazing to see, this guy's going to run through a brick wall for us, and we don't really even know him yet. It must have been amazing to witness that.
It was, and I'm just, some listeners might not have seen that game, but just in brief, and it's no bullshit. The actual run out, Joubert hits it to a wide-ish mid-off or mid-on. I think it was probably, I can't really remember. I know it was
mid-on, mid-wicket.
And it's not going too quick, but it's going quick enough. And you can imagine Ryan's had to, from his follow through. He's dived full length to stop the ball, getting any closer to mid-wicket, roll over on the floor, throw it, and hit the stumps.
Well, he was bowling at the time.
And he was bowling. Honestly, I swear down, that's exactly how it was. Joubert looked up, and, they were still on the chase 113, but that's it. It was done then, was that game, because of that one moment. One of the best ever on a cricket field. Same season as well, Ryan, we played against Cone at home. If I remember, it wasn't. We never had bouncy, quick wickets, but we got a lot of runs. And I do remember it was quite, a decent day. We'd had a bit of a dry spell before, so the ball was coming through. We ended up getting 260 odd, and one of their opening batters came out without a helmet on. Can you recall?
Yes, I did. What was his name? Jeff? Ellis?
Ellis.
Yeah, was it?
Yeah, I do. I do remember that, and I have to admit, and I apologise for people listening, that I did go too far. But in those days, when again I was starting to work out bowling a bit quicker, and for someone to come out and not wear a helmet, I must admit I didn't have to say anything, because the boys around, Matty, Johnny, Dooch, Charlie. They'd always, say that to the batter, if they didn't come out with a helmet, what are you doing? Get one. And I think Jeff, he never wore one. It was the same as the guy at Baker. Who was the old guy at Baker? It was the same, the keeper.
Chappie.
Yeah, they never used to wear it. So, me being at that age, just that was me for like, mate, just get a helmet on, and then they wouldn't do it. After everyone telling him, he wouldn't do it. So, of course, me being stupid and young, and again trying to bully, I guess, the players. What do I have to do? I have to try. First, you have to try and hit him in the head, don't you? And then be the words I'm gonna, and I obviously look back at now, because we've had a death from someone being hit in the head, but the words that I'm going to hurt you or kill you at the time probably is bad. But coming in and seeing it at that age, it was one of those things that it was like the old red rag to the bull for me. It was not just me, but I mean, even Johnny, guys that bowled. It doesn't matter how quick. You just wear a helmet. It's just, I know a lot of guys had the tradition of not doing it. I understand that, but to come in and say, I don't know. It was almost like I don't respect you as a bowler. That was the way I saw it. And then as soon as he came in, I just and obviously the great thing. At the time, it was a good thing. It was a funny thing, but the talk was, look at hit him in the head and that sort of stuff, and it was funny. But it was, as I said, it was like a red rag to a bull. I said to him, put it on. And he wouldn't do it. No. I had to make him put it on. And as I said, I think I might have got him.
yeah, and he did get caught behind off his gloves, if I remember, just fending one off.
That's right. But
you're right, Ryan. That's sport that that is tough. If I could go quick, I would be doing it. And, like you said, it's the lack of respect that's there for it. But it was interesting to play in. But I think, that brings me on to another point I wanted to bring up, and I'll let other lads contribute to it. I've never played with anyone, Ryan, or against anyone, or watched really people that I get to know the cricketers that are so extreme than you are. On the field, it's win at all costs. So you can see that when you're playing for Australia or whether you're playing for Lowerhouse, you go out there, you win at all costs. You'll give them grief. You'll get into their ear. You will, even when you're batting, you're aggressive. But then off the field, you're the complete opposite.
Yes, that was a big thing of mine. I always played hard, and as a youngster, I definitely took that too far. I always try to push the line a bit, but I tried. My goal when playing in the Lengths League, I always thought I wouldn't do that. But when it came to the point of winning was everything, to be obviously in the right way was I always wanted success, and it's no different to everyone that plays the game or plays sport. That was the thing, and there were times I might have gone too far, and as I said, being a bit young and immature, that was probably the way I played. But I always made sure, and that was one thing that Buff, Darren, and a lot of guys at my club back in Adelaide always used to say. They used to do the same thing. That's where I learned it from. That you can always go hard on the ground and go hard and do what you got to do. But if you don't say anything, it's going to be personal to their family, to their friends, to their whatever it is, religion, all that sort of stuff. But go hard at them. But make sure if you go hard at them, make sure you buy them a beer at the end of the day. And that was sort of that was my mentality. So I even did that when I played international cricket. Not that I went too hard in international cricket, but I'd always have a beer and or a drink or softie or whatever it was. At the end of the day, to make sure that you'd always talk about it. And a lot of people would say, "Geez, you went hard at me." I'd say, "Yeah, you deserved it." So like someone like Jeff would say, "I didn't wear a helmet." So I was trying to get there.
It is meant as a compliment. It is a compliment the way you are. You look at other pros that we've played against, and we had a discussion about him. Brad McNamara, horrible on the pitch, but he wasn't a nice fella off it, as far as I could see. You try to chat to him, and so it's just the two extremes there. What do you think, Tony?
I think it speaks volumes that the rumour used to be that we'd get 4 wickets before we'd even bowled a ball because the opposition were frightened of Ryan. The fear that he instilled in opposition, and yet, like you say, he's the nicest bloke you could wish to meet off the field. I just pick up on something he said there. I never saw him with a water or a softie in our Lowerhouse.
2006. So you've gone away injured on that 2003 reign. You've obviously got yourself fit. You've obviously impressed us or David Wren, that much that we do want you back, and we're all desperate to get you back. And that's when you came back in 2006 and played, the vast majority of the season. I think you played 20 games or so before, you sadly had to go back. What are your memories around the 2006 season, Ryan? Is there anything jumping out?
Yeah, there is. The fact that Macca had won it the year before. It was the year before that he won the league, wasn't it? 2004 he won the cup, and then he wanted to win the league. And that was, for me, that was what we wanted to do. And the time I went back early was the time that we realised we couldn't win it. On the flip side of that, my mum was sick as well. So I guess that, I remember, what a season. We were in the mix where we were close to, and that was the biggest thing for me, is that I just, knowing the history, as I did when I arrived in 2003, the goal was to win. I wanted to win something, and Mac did it with you guys, and it was just, I remember when I watched every scorecard. It was great. But to go back to back, that was my goal, and we got to the stage obviously where we couldn't do it, and that's when I went home. And pretty good memories of that season. There were a lot of good memories. Just there's too many we haven't got time to go through. But I think that was coming off a year where it was the belief, I think, in the players, and coming back and seeing the players, the thing is, we had some players that were just, you look at them and say they're not normal first team players, sort of thing. And I don't mean to be negative about it, but I think Finchy nailed it in the podcast the other night with Macca, is that certain players knew their role. They weren't superstars, but they knew their role when they had to do it. So Charlie against spin, Dooch, whatever he did, he bowled certain overs. Matty, whatever it was, just people knew their roles. And I think that's, going back to the chat about, like Macca said, that you pick those players for the team and what they do. And it's seen that way, that everyone had a role. And that was the thing. And that was the thing that contributed to the success before. And I wanted that. I wanted to be the next player, the overseas player, to do that. And, there were times, I think, and my stats at the time, and Joey, can you look up those stats? Because I think a few of those times there where I was pretty disappointed with my stats. I think it was that year, and I remember Keith coming to me, who was obviously the treasurer, and I'd say to him, I think I deserve that payment today because I haven't done anything. And he gave it to me, and thankfully, I still gave it to me obviously because we had to, but it was on the steps of the bar. So he said, "You're going to spend it tonight anyway." I said, "Yeah, I'm going to." So, I gave it back to the club. But, it was one of those things that And one thing that Macca spoke about, Andrew McDonald spoke about in the last podcast, that I was a little bit older, but he was 24. The pressure of coming to a club in the Lancs League is, of course, you feel it, and I love to have a good time. That was sort of the tough thing for me. It wasn't about the pressure of performance. I knew I was going to perform. I knew that, but it was more about the managing the. Because I love the beer, and the Saturday nights before the Sundays, I had to literally had to get in my car after the game and go home, because if I had to stay for 1 or 2, I was going to be wrecked for Sunday. So that was the toughest part for me, because I loved it. And there was a game. There would have been a game. I can't remember the exact game. It was 2003 or 2006, where it was the old English weather. That I know it's going to rain. It's going to rain tomorrow, so let's get in the bar. and Matty and Woody, you probably would have part of this, and probably Jez as well. Gary, you might have been there as well. But it's going to rain tomorrow. Let's have a drink. And we did. We had a good drink, and I woke up. I don't know if I went to bed. I think it must have been 1 or 2 o'clock. Woke up in the morning, and I wasn't. Let's be honest. It was a home game, thankfully, but I wasn't in a great state. I looked out the window, and I was thinking, I'm going to go back to bed here, and it was cracking sunshine, and I had to. Well, I drove up to the club. I shouldn't have. It was a delayed start, thankfully, so I managed to get a few more hours sleep. But if I had to have bowled that, I would have been throwing up at the top of my mark. It was a serious risk. Yeah. So those are the challenges, because it was such a good club socially. I had to do well. That's what I'm there for. But to have a drink, have a beer, and have a good time was also, just with the boys there. It was bloody good fun.
It is interesting for myself. I don't know, about yourself, Gary. I didn't realise, until listening to yourself, Ryan, and Macca, how much pressure the professionals were putting themselves under. I thought the Lancashire League, they by far above better than the vast majority of the players there. But it really had some pressure in it. Gary, did you feel that the pros would have that much pressure on them? I didn't feel it when I was playing.
Yeah, to some extent, and I think that's why it was refreshing, almost getting back to when Ryan came 2003, and obviously Andrew, and then Ryan again, and that's that type of mentality more than anything. I mean, it's up to the professional themselves how they want to approach it, and etc. I think as long as there's a common goal there with what you're trying to achieve as a collective, and I think that's fine. But I think transitioning at that point to the other side of the boundary, I think it was refreshing to almost get back to that ilk of professional, if you like, or that attitude that sort of said, when somebody did at the time, and I was trying to wrap my brain to who mentioned it to me at the time, but they said, when it was obviously somebody who'd been in the team a while, but they said when Ryan came into the dressing room, we all felt equal, and that spoke volumes, really, because I think that the professional there had put himself in amongst the amateurs, and we're all doing this together, and whether you call that sort of putting themselves under pressure to perform or making sure they can lift the team. I don't think it showed. I don't think it was to the detriment, because it can work the wrong way, can't it? It can affect performances sometimes. So I think by pushing himself to do the best he could, I think just naturally lifts the rest of the team 5-10% anyway.
Coming to the channel, I felt intimidated, only because I wasn't to Johnny and Dooch and that. Geez, they made me laugh, and I felt like I wasn't funny enough, for one. So getting those blokes, I wasn't funny enough. Making jokes, and I sat there, I had nothing for it. But I think coming in, the thing about that is that they had the great. When I first came in, they had a great feeling in the room. It was all about banter, and it was all about having fun. But when it came to tough conversations, they actually had that. I think having Jez, you were there at first, Maddie was there, and then Blaise was obviously still there, which is great, and was there. So you could have that. Well, the team I obviously had a conversation the other night with Macca about what's his name? I can't remember. Vishals, what's his name? Whatever. But
Trip, yeah.
Which again, but again, that was about honesty. It wasn't about a bad thing. It wasn't a negative thing. It was about honesty. So you have that conversation, and as much as it is amateur cricket, everyone says it's amateur cricket. You still got to win. No, firstly, as a professional, you go in there. Your job is to win the game for the team, or get the team going in a winning direction. That was the thing. So that was my whole thing about going in there, and again leaving and then coming back. My whole thing was trying to win something, and obviously, I was hopefully going to be the first one to win it. 2003. That didn't happen. And then obviously, thankfully, Macca did it, and then I was hoping they're going to continue that to help that, and that was my goal. That was the driving force behind that. So it wasn't just getting out and playing. It was the whole social thing, and again, talking to a couple of people before I went over or coming back, before 2003 even, but then coming back, it was about the professional. Yes, the pressure's there, but it was about leading a club. And I even found that with going to training. It was, do we train? Oh, sometimes. I was like, oh, okay. Well, that was 2003. I was like, well, are we trying to win it? Are we being serious about it? So, but that got better as I went on, and 2006, 2007, that was better. So, and there's no surprise that results got better through that.
Yeah, but without a doubt, Tony, you probably were, the closest person to Ryan. Is there any memories or stories that you can share with us?
Be nice, Tony, please.
Not for this forum, Jeremy. Not for this forum.
What about the? Let's just discuss the Bake-Up away game. See if Ryan remembers that, and if we were right about the broken foot.
Yeah, did you break Chris Cairns' foot, Razzer, or did you just clean ball him?
No, I got it. No, I don't remember breaking his foot. I remember might have broke his off stump, but I didn't break his foot. Yeah, no, I definitely remember bowling him. I didn't break his foot.
Game after, it was against Nelson, I think, and you got Craig McMillan out for a duck as well. I think there were a number of New Zealanders over that season, Shannon Stewart and Canning, I think, at Aslington.
Yeah.
Were you up for it a bit more with New Zealanders?
I wish I'd known that 12 months ago, because I worked with Craig McMillan in the IPL. I didn't know that. I wish I remember that. Thought I do remember that. That was the year there. There's a lot of Canning was in. You said Tanner Cumming, didn't you? Yeah. So there was a few. I mean, Stuart was at East Lancs. He made a truckload of runs, I think, didn't he? Yeah. No, it was just. Oh, look, off the top of my head, it wasn't. It's not obviously a big thing, but when he got Australia, New Zealand, that was switched on straight away. I've got to get this bloke out. He's he wants to be an Aussie. He's close to us. He wants to be an Aussie, but no. It's always a good battle against the Kiwis.
Jez, on that Bake-Up game, from my memory, I think he hit Terry Lord on his foot.
Terry Lord.
Was he the big in-swing bowler?
Yeah.
Yeah, I may have.
And I think he hit Chappie on his glove.
In front of his head.
Yeah, and they didn't give it out, and then he bowled him.
Yeah, I actually thought I might have. I really hurt him. I remember that, because I saw it hit his head. I think the umpire did too. That's why I didn't give him out.
I can remember talking to Mark Whitehead about this. I've alluded to it on a number of podcasts, but I spend a lot of time with Mark and we chat about different games and stuff. He said when he watched that game, he said it was the fastest he'd ever seen anybody bowl. But I mean, obviously Chris Cairns was a massive signing that year. And there would have been a lot of chat about him coming into the league and obviously going to destroy everybody. Did that have any bearing on your mentality or the team's mentality?
I'll tell you what though, I reckon, and correct me if I'm wrong, T or Jez, you might know this, or Gary, that I reckon he played us at Lowerhouse and smashed us around. Is that right?
Yeah.
I reckon he whacked me around, and that was the thing I was so determined about getting him. I reckon he'd not just me, but I reckon he was smacking everyone around that year. Did Baker win it that year? They may have won it that year.
No, Burnley won it that year.
Right, okay.
Because Bake-Up should have won it, but I think they lost the last.
Well, Terry Lord had a broken foot.
That might have been it, but they were close. I knew they were close because he was smacking everyone around. Yeah, so I think that I remember that. I actually sort of remember that game where I was on. We said before. I said to the boys before, I've got to get him out. We've got to get him out early, otherwise he's going to smack us around again. So yeah, I remember that. I ran in and actually bowled a decent ball again. Nice little out swinger, hitting it off stump. So yeah, no, I think he was one that. We've since found out there might have been a bit of dodges about Chris Cairns, but no, he was one that. Look, when you came to the Lancs League and you played against players such as him and international players, it was just a great challenge. It was a great challenge because you're playing on. Everyone say, "Oh, the wickets did a bit. It was great for the bowlers," but sometimes they were good wickets and flat. But he showed that he made a lot of runs and he did well, and as well as a lot of other pros. So that was a great challenge about coming against these sort of pros and doing well. again, you're the pro for the team, and you wanted to make sure, especially as a bowler, that you got their pro out, and the roar, especially at home, when you did that from the crowd was awesome. It was such a great thing, So, and then vice versa, when you're away and you got the pro out, everyone would almost leave. it was awesome. So.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I do remember that Chris Cairns at home, because I'm quite sure. I think he put a few windows on Lowerhouse Lane. It was some broken windows, if I remember rightly. Yeah. So yeah, good on you. And then you've come back in 2007, but you clearly had you played much cricket back in Australia in the summer over there?
I must admit, he sent me that info. I can't remember that, to be honest. I was there. I think I was there because I only came over for half the season, didn't I? Or even a quarter of the season.
Yeah.
I think it was because I was really focused on trying to do well back home and get a good pre-season, try and continue what I'd sort of started, I guess. And I actually remember Renners coming to me and saying, mate, he knew from the start. I was only there for what was it, 7 or 8 or 10 games, whatever it was. Yeah. And I think he had someone coming over and that fell through. And he came to me and said, "Look, can you stay?" And I'd love to, but it was sort of the beginning of that climb, I guess. And just trying to think why that was. I must have had something else at home that was that was locked in. Whether as I said, whether it was state training with South Australia, or whatever it was. But I remember it was a tough decision to have to leave because everyone was going well.
In that 2007 season, we'd signed Jonathan Moss.
That's right.
Who pulled out in April.
That's right.
I'm just looking at the thing now. So then we managed to sign you for a period of time, and obviously in that you broke a partnership record with Finch.
That's right.
But then we signed Aaron O'Brien.
That's right, Obi. I remember him. That's right. Yeah, he actually did really well, didn't he?
He did very well.
He did
very well, but we didn't re-sign him.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But
I remember that. Yeah, I remember actually just listening again to the previous podcast with Finchy and Macca and Finchy. I remember that partnership. It was amazing because it was against. Who was against Haslington? Baker. Sorry, it was against because. I remember it because of Shane Harwood, who used to bowl to me when I was over here in playing against Victoria, who would try and kill me every time. He would bowl. He was quick, and he bowled bounces and try and literally. He was fast. So to open the bowling and make 140 against him, I remember some of the shots I played against him. I was bloody good. I was surprised against it. I was bloody surprised. And then, hearing Finchy talk about it last night, that brought back some good memories. To be able to do that against them and to make obviously a big score on a record first sort of wicket partnership was bloody impressive, So he was a good bowler, Shane Howard. He was fast.
Yeah, he did. He sub-pro'd for us once or twice.
He did, I remember. Yeah,
and he's a real, strong Australian who would run through a wall for you. And I didn't realise he was pro when you got that. He was getting Trottenstall at home.
Trottenstall, there you go. Yeah.
And he only bowled 10 overs, not for 44. And he used to bounce you back in Australia, did he, when you were younger?
Did he what? Yeah, and you're right about him being a typical Aussie. He was a great man. He didn't mind a smoke or a dart, as we call it, and didn't mind a beer and that. And he played I think T20 cricket for Australia and maybe one day cricket, and he was generally fast. But playing back here, batting. I was batting at 9 or 8 or 9 or 10, and he wasn't pitching them up. I can tell you that he was, and I wasn't bowling fast back then either. So I couldn't get him back because he couldn't hold it. He could whack it, but he couldn't hold the bat. But he was quick. So for me that day to make 100 against him, I might have given him a big, up you sort of thing. But it was a good challenge. So
it was. I remember watching that game. It was fantastic, and that brings me on to another point, Ryan. I'll let the others come in around that 2007 when you came over to help us out. I remember playing with you and watching you. And you were a genuine all-rounder in my eyes. I don't know about other players. You were a proper batter. And I know you said on the podcast back in Australia the other day that when you were younger, you did bat and your batting went a little bit awry because of, your concentration on your bowling. Is it that difficult in Test cricket that you wouldn't have ever been able to bat at 7, 8, in Test cricket? Am I being just, a bit naive in that the batters at Test cricket are that much better than likes of yourself?
I don't think you're being naive because the batters are phenomenal. The way they pick the ball up the seam and the length is phenomenal. I don't know. I think through junior cricket was okay. I batted a lot and did okay, batted top order. But as I said, bowling took over. But as it got quicker, I must admit, I think I got scared. I was scared of the quicks. Blokes bowling 135, 140 k. It was scared the shit out of me. So, but again, I didn't do enough during that period of when I was trying to work hard and bowl a lot. So I bowled a lot of training more than bat. And then I got to the stage where I was feeling good with the ball, and then I started doing it again with batting. And then in South Australia, I had a guy that was one of my coaches through the junior under-17s, under-19s, who was assistant coach for South Australia. And he just said to me one day, he said, "Mate, what's happened to your batting?" I said, "Oh, look, I've just become a bowler." And he said, "No, that's bullshit. Your batting's good." So he, as an assistant coach, he just said, "Well, we're going to bat every time everyone finishes. You have your batting session during the normal training session, and then we're going to have a 45-minute session afterwards." I said, "Perfect, that's great." And then he come off. That was sort of around the time the sidearm, the plastic dog thrower came in. So he started doing that, and then he started come off. I said, he sort of worked it out, but he got me, being a good coach. He told me, he said, he asked me questions, and I said, I'm a bit worried about the quick stuff. And he said, "Oh, perfect." He said, "Yeah, you shit scared of it." I said, "Thanks." And then anyway, he started coming off about 18 yards or 16 yards and throwing these balls to me quick and the short stuff. And so I started working it out a bit. And that's when I started sort of, I think I was batting at 8 or 9 for South Australia. And then, it was probably more, it was a bit later again. But actually, I did really enjoy batting. Had to do, being down the order, especially a few of the times I was playing. Well, definitely South Australia, they had a few collapses, but then the Australian team, we had a few collapses. But yeah, it was a bit later again. I took on the batting again, but I definitely enjoyed it.
The answer there is really the pace, isn't it? That's in league.
So yes, correct. Yeah. So sorry, I should have just elaborated there. Coming to league cricket and batting top order for me, that was another thing that to improve. And not some teams had pace depending on the pro.
Yeah,
but it was good to get my technique and my eye and everything like that in and all that sort of stuff. But that was I was always encouraged to go over to England and play on tough wickets and get better and try and get your batting right. So
I've just quickly looked at his Lowerhouse stats and averaged 43 with the bat, 13 with the ball, finished on 99 league wickets.
That's not great. I'm available for another season to get my 100th if you need to play. I got a British passport. I might need to lose a little bit of weight, but I can come over.
That's been a brilliant chat, Jez. That's been great.
Just on Ryan's batting, he did actually get a county championship century, if I'm not mistaken, right?
No, I didn't. 1994.
Well, nearly.
Yeah. 94 was it? Yeah.
Well, 3 Test 50s.
Yeah, but you've got 74 in Test.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a story behind that too. I know we're short for time, but I was going all right at the time, I must admit, and I was thinking I was trying to smash Ashwin around, and then I think I just hit him for 6, and I was actually thinking, how am I going to celebrate my 100, and where's my wife sitting? And then I tried to slog sweeping again next ball, and I was out LB. That was it. So it cost me my wife cost me a test 100 because she was sitting too high up at the MCG. So.
Fantastic, brilliant. Yeah, it was fantastic. As I said at the start, Joe Beneduce is probably just going up and down the pizza aisle at Aldi. So he sent a little note through. I just said, is there anything you want to put to write or comment on? And he's basically saying, I'll read it, because it is a good paragraph. He's gutted that he can't make it. And he said, Ryan, still to this day, is the most superhuman pro I have ever played with or against. He was proper quick and very nasty with it. I think I've said it before, but I felt like we could do or say anything in the field because Ryan would always sort it out for him. Like having a really hard mate at school. And then his last line was, it wasn't just the cricket, he threw himself into the social side as well, which is probably why he's such a good mate with Tony Woodworth. So
brilliant.
From Joe, good contribution from him.
Brilliant. Can I just quickly say, Jez, just to finish, I know we're quick, but what a club. I'd be back there tomorrow if I could, and people are listening, whatever, but what a club. And I think I heard or saw the other day that players around the competition wanted to come and play for Lowerhouse in the Lancs League, and I think that's a credit to Renners. I think it's credit to Keith. I think it's credit to everyone around the club. Matty, we haven't even spoke about Matty, Jez, your brother, or all that, or the seat where we used to eat kebabs, Tony. On what was it called?
The bench.
The bench. And he wrote that in the tweet today. But if I could, I'd be back there tomorrow. If I was fit enough and strong enough, I'd with the British passport, I'd be back there tomorrow. But what a club to be able to be, still talking to you now as good mates. And if there's anyone around listening, go and play in the league, or any youngsters. Haven't even spoke about Stan, which I wanted to touch on, but the young people around the area, just go and listen to the people around the club and be involved in the club. It's what a club. From what I understand, where it was and not winning anything to where it is now, it's what a credit to everyone around the area, around the club. So it's fantastic to be able to be sitting here today and speaking about the club like that.
That's great. That's extremely kind of you, Ryan, to make those comments, and we thoroughly enjoyed your time there. As you said, when you come back, whether you can or you can't play, it's like last year. Whenever you're in England, it's always a case of a meet up at the club, and everyone wants to chat to you. Everyone wants to listen to you. And you're the type of man that does spend time and will give your time for all the spectators. You'll chat to any of the spectators, and they really appreciate you for it. So thanks very much for that. Is there anything else? Because we can cut it in if you have any other stories, Ryan, you want to come through, or.
I've got some good stories, but like Tony said, they're probably not. They're probably not. No. Again, I just think the support, and I'm probably a bit boring, but the support for the club, the people around the club. We lost a great man in Dave Wren, which I was absolutely shattered, and as everyone was. But look, just what a club, and I'm so proud to be a part of it. And as you said, Jez, every time I'm back there, and if I can get back there, I'm always going to pay a visit to come and have a drink at the club. And we probably should have a curry first next time, so I can actually have it rather than drink 15 pints. But I love coming back there. My family, I love to bring my kids back there one day and see it. But thank you for having me on here. And it's also, again, hearing Andrew McDonald speak the other day, it's such an important. And Matthew Mott, we talk about it all the time. It's a great club, and it's a big part in our lives. So thanks for having us, and thank you for having me on this podcast.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Ryan, and thanks for joining us. And so, till the next podcast, we'll see you all soon.
Send Morehouse to save the house.